Hey guys, I'm here with my friend Irini. How are you doing today?
I'm good, David. Thank you for having me. How you doing?
I'm good. Let me just ask you this really quick so people know.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce your name? Because I know that's the thing. Is it like Irini with like a flicked R or is it like Irini?
No, you did it right, but most people can't flick the R, only
Okay.
if you speak like Greek, Spanish, whichever language that you use that flick in. But yeah, Irini is fine too, if that's what but just not Irene, like that's draw the line. And I don't respond. Like I'm that bitch. Like when someone sorry, can I swear?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, fine. Just checking because I've gotten in trouble before. Yeah, like when somebody's like Irene, like I just ignore them, which is super rude. But yeah, it's Irini.
It's so funny because like seeing your name for the first time, I automatically assumed Irini
Mm.
because I was like, Irene just doesn't sound like
Right?
it would work. No.
Like at first I was like, okay, cool. When it's people who only speak English, fair enough. And then after a while, I was like, that's not true though, because you have English names like Isabel or
hmm
Imogen, and it's not Imogen, it's not Isabel. So I was like, there's no excuse to butcher my name. And it's not
Exactly.
even that long as well. It's like, I don't know. But yeah, first world
Awesome.
problems.
Yeah. Did you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Well, what do you want me to say? I mean, I guess the basics is I'm a singer and songwriter. I'm an artist, I should say, artist and songwriter, based in London. Um, as you can tell from my name, I'm not English. I'm, I'm Greek and I grew up in Germany, so I'm binational, whatever that means. And
Careful.
yeah, and live here. That's pretty much it. And I pretty much just sing songs in my bedroom since we're in lockdown right now. So
Yeah,
just with my workstation and by
exactly.
my piano. That's it.
Yeah, we actually met, for people who don't know, in a
Mhm.
virtual songwriting session, which was really fun. That was like my first time ever doing something like that, and I'm so glad I met you because like we clicked right away. So,
Yeah, me too, man. I'm really happy to have met you, and like it's it's just so cool because um like the way we were working in that situation specifically, we both went off and started writing to the same song, like to the same, I should say, top line to the same beat really, and then
mhm,
came together, and then we discovered that we actually wrote really similar things. And like it was just really nice. Like I've never tried this approach before. I guess it's
mhm.
just because it was virtual, because
Yeah,
usually when you're in a room with someone it's a bit different. But yeah, I just thought that was really cool that we just instantly went to the same place.
yep, I loved it. It was so much fun. By the way, that reminds me, and I do need to get back on that like later today. Um, but yeah, so again, thanks for being here. It's really awesome to have you. And one of my first questions, typically the topic that I'm talking about for this whole thing is kind of
Mm-hmm.
just based around not so much the song that I just released, but like the concept
Mm-hmm.
about which the song was written, which is
Yeah.
kind of just like happiness and the concept of happiness and how people
Yeah.
deal with that, specifically
Mm-hmm.
artists, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we feel more intensely than most people do,
Mm-hmm.
because our job is literally, feeling constantly and drawing on different emotions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my first questions that I wanted to ask you was, do you feel, and especially this is interesting because I think you're my first person in another country.
Okay.
So do you feel like modern society um, has pressured you into like projecting this happiest version of yourself, or do you feel like
Mm.
modern society has done the opposite and like made you feel like you could be yourself?
That's a great question. I think it's changed over the last 10 years, because I think at first I feel like it was kind of, nobody knew what, like when it was just basically Facebook in the beginning and MySpace and whatever. Like I didn't have a MySpace. I'm a little too young for that. But like, yeah, no judgment. But Facebook kind of had a similar vibe to me, and like Twitter then as well, like where people were basically just using it as a diary and just thought, oh, only my friends can see this, and they just went blah. And then after a while they realized, oh shit, this is like everyone, like, this is going to be there forever. So then people went and like deleted stuff again, and then I just feel like it keeps changing. So now, if I'm honest, I don't think I would still have social media if I wasn't an artist, like, or I would probably have like a private Instagram or something. So yeah, I do feel to a degree like that I should like not be super negative, but I feel like also, especially last year, so in 2020, when the George Floyd incident happened, like I just kind of realized, like I just kind of for the first time I was just like more vocal about what I believe, like in terms of social issues, and like you know, like in terms of my political views. Because before that, I mean, I was like signing petitions and protesting and doing whatever, and like just living my life, you know, the way I feel is right. But at the same time, I was always told, like, as an artist, don't be very out there about your personal opinions when it comes to politics, especially. And and like last year I was just like, screw this, it doesn't make sense. Like, at the end of the day, like for me, social issues aren't political, it's right and wrong. Like for me, there is no gray zone in some instances, do you know what I mean? So for me, it was just like a turning point, I guess. But because like, yeah, so I feel like now as well, with it's changing again with platforms like TikTok being super predominant, because you have a lot of people who like are more authentic. Like it's not that have to look perfect every day type of vibe anymore. It's like, no, just me, just a snap, just on the gram. Like it's like, I feel like that's been helping ease off the pressure as well, you know, in terms of like perfect content.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That it's a, I mean, I'm glad you said that, because it's so weird, because I find maybe it's just because I like, you know, on social media, it depending on who you are and like the things that you like and where you live, like you're like fed different like channels and like content and stuff like that.
Yep,
So I
definitely.
don't know what it is, but like sometimes I guess just because of like my friends and then their friend group and whatever, and Instagram's the algorithm like sees that or whatever. Like I just see sometimes all these like girls or boys, and sometimes adults, like just projecting this like fake not version of themselves, but like you can tell it's not authentic. So and I'm just like, I would look at them and I'm like, wow, that must be so hard to maintain. Like I know I'm not happy every day, but pretending like I am on social media seems like a lot of work. So
Yeah, and I have to actually say, like, I really love what you're doing with your socials, because like it's not inauthentic, but it's brand, if that makes sense. So I
yeah,
feel
for
like I
sure.
look at the picture that you post and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. You know what I mean? I look at your feed and I'm like, okay, cool. Like he has a very particular style of expressing himself, and it's not always smiley, smiley, party here, party there, which right now is not a good idea. Anyway, um but you know what I mean, like it's quite important, I guess, to, yeah, like what you said, like just to be true to yourself. And there are accounts, you know, where I feel like it is about positivity, so then fair enough, they kind of want to just push the positive quotes or whatever it is. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like if you're just a person specifically, like not an artist, not a brand, even though now everybody's becoming a brand, like if you're just a person, you should definitely not feel pressured into pretending, you know, for what, for who, like who you trying to impress, why,
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
know.
I completely agree. And I do agree. Like I feel like our generation and some of the people from like who came before us, like they were really trying to make social media like a better place, you know, because you know, with the body positive movement and like with, you know, just people on social media deciding not to be like bitches to other people anymore. Like it's just, I don't know what changed. Like I don't really care at this point, but like I'm glad that it's
I'm
like,
glad it changed.
yeah, because I remember I used to be on Instagram in like high school and middle school, and I would be terrified to even log on because I knew someone was going to either bully me or like send me like a nasty message, or because back then like people would upload videos of like like self-harm and stuff like that. And I don't think Instagram's like algorithm was as
Yeah, didn't
detective.
flag that. Yeah.
So, you know, I would see stuff like that and I'm just like, oh my goodness. So I feel like we're way past that point, which is really great.
I think it's interesting that you're touching on the algorithm as well. And like, just the thing is that obviously these platforms are all relatively young, and like they are still the wild west to an extent, but obviously they're being modified and as we go. And like in terms of body positivity, I'm completely with you. And I think, for example, it's great that now Instagram will flag if you post something that it was using a filter. You know, like I think it's great that now it's like you can't just pretend it's your face when it's not your face type thing, which I think is good, because these filters are like supposed to be fun, but then some are taking it to such an extreme where I look at it, I'm like, that's not my face. Like this is a catfish filter. They should just call it catfish. Like, but yeah, I find that it's definitely a step in the right direction. But like you can't fault them for everything, because obviously, you know, like they're still growing, they're still learning, and it's still a new platform. Like relatively, the internet is still relatively young if you're thinking about like the grand scheme of things. But yeah,
Sure.
I'm sorry to hear that you had to deal with that and had like anxiety attacks to even log on to your Instagram. Like that should not be it. Like I'll never understand the people that take time out of their day to be mean. For what? Like I don't know. I'll never get it.
Yeah, it was not fun. Like I had to delete my Instagram and I didn't get it back until about like my first year of high school. And even then it wasn't great, but like it wasn't as bad. I don't know, I feel like when kids are from like the age of like 11 to like 14, they're just disgusting. Like I don't know, like either they're really bad or they're really great. And I had all the really bad ones. So yeah, it was just bad. But I mean, I grew from it, which is great because now I know never to treat people like that. So
true. I've dealt with that as well in school, but like I didn't have to deal with it online as much, you know. And I think about that a lot when I like the kids that I know in my life, you know, the ones that are 11, 12, 13. Like I just keep thinking how hard it is to exist in this sphere where all you see is perfect bodies and perfect everything, you know. And I think it's super healthy that kids are gravitating more towards TikTok now. I personally think that's a good thing. There's still obviously flaws, like there's flaws on every platform, don't get me wrong, but you know, I do keep thinking it must be so hard to be a child right now, you know, like it's just getting more crazy.
yeah. Actually, it's funny because going on TikTok, one of the things that I find a lot is not so much like, I don't know how to explain it. Like whenever I go on TikTok, which is not often, but when I do go on, I see this, like there are some people who make those like really motivational videos, which is really cool. Then sometimes I see the polar opposite with like these aesthetically attractive men or women, and they try to make the video look like they're trying to be helpful, but when it's just about looking like really good, and I'm like, and they're just trying to get fans or followers, and I'm like, wow. And the sad thing is I feel like people are eating that up and like just going along with it because they're pretty, and I'm like,
you're like, but what are you offering me really? Like
it's so stupid.
I mean, I think it's interesting because obviously it's gonna feed you whatever you engage with. So like what I get a lot of on TikTok right now is food. Like I've just been noticing there's a lot of people that are showing they're either like small artsy businesses, you know, like illustrators that make like cool stickers, or like little like bakeries and shops like that. And I get a lot of food. Like foodie TikTok is like my life right now, to the point where I try to recreate stuff and it's not always going well, but you know, that, and obviously a lot of musical content. So I think I agree with you. It's super annoying that some people are literally just existing on a platform to be like, just to show their face. But at the same time, you know, I think it's kind of cool that whatever people like they can give power to. like
Yeah.
by engaging with it and stuff. So in a way, you know, you're gonna probably see less of that if you spend more time on the platform, just actively going, nope. And I like that TikTok has a not interested button.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. So I think if you hold the video, you can like either favorite it, save it, or like you can say that's the kind of content I'm not keen on.
I might have to
So
do
that's
that.
good. Yeah. That's pretty
Wow.
good, I think. Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm gonna do that because I don't know why those things show up. Because I the only thing I watch is like funny videos or like TikTok hacks. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
crazy.
you know, some people are mean on there or whatever, but I feel like it's quite cool because you have stuff like stitching, like you can, this is turning into a TikTok tutorial, but you can like, you know, respond to someone. And like I've seen a lot of that where some guy was saying something like, oh, I would never date a girl who, like, I would never date a big girl, like, and then another guy was like replying like, yo, this is why this is trash. And like I just thought that was pretty cool, like that someone can actually take that video and turn it into something positive. But yeah, of course you're gonna have negativity everywhere. I think it's kind of inevitable. People like gravitate towards it sometimes, you know. It's like,
Yeah, and it's funny too because one thing that I've noticed is like I think like because you know cancel culture did kind of come from social media.
Definitely.
And I'm really against it, not in the fact that I don't think certain people shouldn't be given
Should
the light of day because some
yeah.
people are just really toxic. I think we should encourage consequence culture because canceling someone is literally just the easy way out. Like it's just shutting them up and like leaving them alone. But if we give someone attention and make them pay the consequences for their actions, I think that's way more impactful because it's shedding a light on you will not get away with this because like being a shit human being is not something that should be taken lightly. So
Yeah. I like that term. You should coin that term.
consequence culture.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea because cancel culture is, you're right, it's not the way forward. It's a quick fix for a long term problem. So it's not going to solve anything, is it?
Nope.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that that's something that last year kind of has been like, it has been changing a little bit. Obviously not talking about someone who's like really terrible as a person, but there's so many people who got cancelled after saying one thing or asking one allegedly stupid question. And I think we need to be a little bit more forgiving because then the response is that society is being polarized. Like what you know as well is from the algorithm, the way that we're now only being fed things we agree with, also on a political level, like that is super scary because we don't even have the same base ground when we're talking to someone who we don't agree with, and that's really dangerous. I think, you know, how can you come together if you only focus on what you don't have in common? And canceling someone because they ask a question that you and I would be rolling our eyes at is not great, like because you're shutting them off from the conversation instead of saying, okay, cool, like I'm gonna break it down for you, like what you said, shed light, like bring them an answer, you know. And I think since last year it's been a little bit more normalized to allow people to grow and to change and to, you know, to ask questions and then learn from the answer and move on. Like I feel like, I don't know how you feel about this, but a lot of celebrities have been pulled up on something they said on Twitter 10 years ago, right? Like what happened with Kevin Hart, for example, right? And then he like didn't host the Oscars. This was a couple of years ago, right?
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, he made a joke that was homophobic, and that was obviously shit. That was obviously wrong. I'm completely against that. But he said he since apologized several times, and there was a couple of other people. There was a girl here who was like a radio presenter who's like a big deal, and she said something at some point. And the truth is, like, you probably said something dumb at some point in your life. Like, when are we gonna be allowed to learn and move on from that? Do you see what I'm saying? Or are we gonna spend the rest of our lives apologizing for something we've said once? Like, I don't know. It's just an interesting thing, I think, to think about, like like surrounding the topic of cancel culture, because someone can do 100 things right and then do 2 things wrong and we're going to cancel them. because of the two things. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think it's important to understand that we're all human, and like, yeah, I don't know. We just kind of have to be allowed to make mistakes and move on from them.
Yeah, and that kind of actually brings me to my next question. Like when you first became an artist, did you
Mhm.
feel like a responsibility to, I mean, maybe not as much as now, but like when you first started, did you feel a responsibility to your fans, or just in general, like that you wanted to present like a positive like image, or I don't like saying role model because it's like
Yeah,
a
I
thing,
hate that
but
too, but I know what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, like did you feel like that ever?
That's a good question, because I feel like it's a lot of pressure. I'm personally not someone who is like, I'm not like crispy clean, if that makes sense. Like I'm never gonna be the girl that's like not swearing, or you know what I mean? Like it's just not gonna happen. It's just don't expect it.
Yeah.
But like I think about this sometimes, because the other day was my niece's birthday. She's 4. And we were sitting there, and then someone put like some of my YouTube videos up on the TV, and it did make me think about it differently. I think about it now more than before, because when you start having kids in your immediate like environment, that's when you kind of go, she looks up to me, yo. Like she's gonna start trying to replicate that, or she's gonna ask me questions about that, or why did you say that, or why, what was you thinking? And yeah, it makes you think. But I don't feel like I want to take on the role model thing. Like I'm not. I feel like even now, I don't know if you've seen the Britney Spears documentary.
No, but I want to.
Yeah, see that's the thing. I feel like I'm just gonna cry so much when I watch it. But basically, I feel like what they did with her is exactly that. They try to paint her as a saint, you know, and like she was a kid still when it started as well. So for me, it's just, that's like trying to be a role model gone wrong, if you know what I mean. Like, because nobody is perfect. Like you're human. And especially now it's a lot harder because you have social media. You don't have, you know, you can't have, what's it called? You don't have so many gatekeepers, you know. You don't issue a press release to give an opinion where 5 to 10 people can like edit it before it comes out. Like you literally like at a push of a button, send, you know. Even though bigger artists do have like some people in place as well, just to make sure that you don't misrepresent stuff. But like, yeah, I think it's just really hard to, I think right now it's really hard to try and be perfect, like without looking inauthentic. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what we said earlier. Like, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Like, how do you feel about that? Do you have kids around you? Like, do you feel like, oh no, like they're gonna listen to this, and like, I don't know.
Yeah, I do feel like that sometimes, because like I do feel conflicted at points, because I do want to, because it's like two things for me. It's one, because I know that I do have like not younger siblings, but like younger cousins, or like my kids, my friends who have kids, or like people who I know who just happen to be on the younger side. But and then sometimes like I'll drop an F-bomb or whatever, but like that's because that's just how I speak. But I also
Yeah.
don't want to like I don't want to encourage them to do something that maybe their parents don't want them to do, because like, you know, kids are impressionable. But I also don't
Yep.
want to filter myself. So I'm like, so sometimes like I pick and choose my battles. Like if I'm gonna be live on like a Saturday in the morning, I know kids are awake, so I'm not gonna be dropping F-bombs like every single
Yeah.
second. But
Yeah.
like sometimes, depending, like if I'm at a live show and I know that there's not really going to be kids there, like I'll talk however I want, or something like that. But yeah, it kind of depends. Like I just, at the end of the day, try not to like be inconsistent or like inauthentic to who I am, because you know, especially when it comes to kids, it's like your parents should be the ones controlling like what you see, and not in like a bad way, but like in a like
Yeah.
safe way.
Yeah.
Not saying that like people should keep their children away from me or something.
I think so, but I don't, yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, like something like my sister, she's actually she's disabled like mentally, so she's
Mhm.
25, 26, but she's mentally about like 7. um
Okay.
but she's very comprehensive, like she's really good at
Mhm.
understanding things, so when she hears a bad word, she looks at me and my mom and we
Oh
go, don't
no.
say that.
I
So
love that it tells you off like, excuse you. Good. It's good we
um
own someone like that in our lives. Like
yeah,
let's just
so
keep it clean.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
But
yeah,
I personally I don't always think that swearing correlates with being a bad influence. I mean, I kind of learned how to, like you said as well, switch it on and off with, around kids, because when I wasn't used to being around kids, I was like just not paying attention. But now I can kind of, I got that down. But I don't necessarily think like, because here's the thing, like I also kind of mentored some teens recently. They're not that much younger than me, and when I was 17, I thought I was grown. So they want to be adults. So when I'm around them, I do treat them like a grown up. And I know also like we're in the studio and they have swearing in their music, or like it would be crazy if I was trying to like not, because they're not like 5 years old, and like I'm not like, I guess there's degrees as to which you need to rail it back. But yeah, I mean in that instance, I don't like censor the way I talk when I'm around them, because I just feel like, what's the point? You know what I
sure,
mean?
yeah, I
Because they talk
completely
like that themselves. And in a way, like, I feel like sometimes young adults respond better, anyways, when they feel like you looking at them eye level. Because at the end of the day, like, everybody's there because they want to be there. Nobody's being forced to have an education in songwriting and becoming a rapper or producer or whatever. So I think, yeah, I don't necessarily always think that language, like bad language, is always necessarily the worst thing you can do to influence people in a bad
yeah.
way. There's way worse, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Even sometimes with like, kind of bringing it back to like happiness and social media.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes I used to actually feel really strange about, um because when I started coming into being more vulnerable with my emotions and like being
Mm-hmm.
more candid about like my depression or anxiety or whatever, um,
Mm-hmm.
I was at first I thought about it. I was like, do I really want to share stuff like that? Because like um I don't want to perpetuate, because I know there are some people who do perpetuate the
Mm-hmm.
aesthetic that depression and anxiety is cool, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like it's
Yeah,
not
not
that.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like people have tried to like monopolize mental health and make it look like a thing
Yeah.
that's cool. I'm like, how does that even work? Like I get wearing glasses, but like not having depression or anxiety. But like,
Yeah, it's being
um,
glamorous sometimes, right? Like I feel like that too.
yeah, and
And
I
it's
don't know.
because the age you mentioned as well, between 11 and 14, I feel like that's when everything, maybe because of hormones heightening everything, but like I just felt around that time I was like everything was so super dark, like, and shit wasn't that hard if I'm really honest, right? Like it was not that deep, but like back then it felt so intense and
Yeah,
everything was like, and I think maybe that's like kind of not helping when maybe that's, I'm thinking that might be partially feeding into why some kids glamorize that. It's like being like an emo
hmm,
person, and like just start dressing all black and stuff like that. I mean, it's part of the aesthetic, isn't it? And then maybe now, because some people, yeah, you're right, some people, but like, how do you deal with that? Because I think it's good that you are open about your depression. I think that's important, but like it's a fine line, like you're saying, like how do you deal with that? Like how
um,
do you not glamorize it but still share?
I think the best way to do it is kind of, because there's different aspects to how people like, first of all, like misinterpret and like
Yeah.
it's like misinterpretation, misinformation, and then also like the monopolizing factor. So I think one of the main things is I tell people, I'm like, do not self-diagnose, because I know so many people who are just like, oh, I have anxiety and I'm bipolar and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, did you see a therapist and see your doctor? Like, they're like,
Yeah.
no, I just think I do. And I was like, okay, well, thinking you do and like having like a genetic, like chemical, like problem is completely different.
Mm,
And so I think people confuse like normal anxiety of like just being like anxious about something coming or whatever with
mm,
actual like chronic anxiety with something that you just have to medicate or for the rest of your life.
mm,
So I think that that's like the misinformation part. And
mm,
I think one of the other things is, um, I don't know, like I've seen some newer artists, like typically younger kids who,
mm,
um, what was it? Like who are just saying like being sad. They just make like look being like sad and depressed like
mm.
a cool thing. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm just like, no. Like even on merchandise, because my merchandise comes out today, but like I didn't want to put anything on it that said like being sad is cool or like blah blah blah. But some of it says like I'm feeling sad, like, and it's more of like a
But it's
proud.
okay kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more like a I'm letting people know that I'm sad, but like I'm still functional. So,
Okay.
um,
That's good. I like that actually. I think that's a good point. I feel like it should be something that you think about before you put it on a t-shirt. And I think it's great that you are, thinking it through and not just trying to not clickbait, but like not just trying to make it something that you think, oh, a lot of these kids would buy it, but do I really ethically stand behind that statement? So I think that's great that you
thank
actually
you.
think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a slippery slope. Like it's really
Yeah.
hard to gauge, but um,
Mm,
and sometimes you just can't control the way some people
yeah.
take it. So
Yeah.
just have to do your thing.
No, but I mean, I think if you just put enough thought into it that you know at the end of the day who you are and that you did due diligence and that you just can sleep with a clean conscience. You know what I mean? Like I feel
Mhm.
you can't you're not responsible for everybody understanding you.
Oh
You're
yeah,
never gonna get everyone. You know what I mean? But like if you can sleep at night, you're fine.
for
Like
sure.
and, I think that's important. Yeah. I think it's interesting as well, like because a lot of like when you said younger artists, like a lot of like rappers use that like recently. When I say recently, I guess I mean the last 4 or 5 years have been passing away from overdoses and like lean a lot of the time and like just been glamorizing that I'm so sad I'm doing drugs thing. And then do you know Russ? Like
Yeah,
the rapper? Yeah, I just remember when he was like having beef with them because he was literally telling people, yo, like stop. You have a lot of teenagers looking up to you, like stop glamorizing taking drugs and feeling like shit and handling your depression in that way. Um, and like a lot of them felt attacked or whatever because of a t-shirt he was wearing. Funny enough, that's probably why it's popped into my head, but I just kind of think I kind of respected him a lot. I mean, I respect him regardless, but like I really respected him for that, like using his position to challenge other artists on, you know, just misusing their position, I guess, just by making it look cool and fun and fashionable and like, yeah. I mean, I'm not perfect. We all have our vices, but at the same time, I don't believe in glamorizing toxic shit, you know?
exactly. Because that would
Yeah.
just that's just setting us back so far. Like
Yeah,
we don't need that. Um,
exactly.
Kind of getting to like a even deeper like top question actually. So I know we talked about like social media and happiness and
Mm-hmm.
just a bunch of different concepts, but at the end of the day, like what does happiness mean to you? Like I don't know,
I'm
like
trying to find out about that myself, man. I'm reading. I don't know. Like,
that's a good answer. Like some people, it's like I never hear that answer from certain people. Like some people just like try to tell me like whatever they can, but it's actually cool that you realize, I'm still trying to figure that out because some
Yeah.
people just freak out that they don't know, but you seem like comfortable in the fact that you're like
I
figuring it.
mean, I feel like it's like happiness is such a like philosophical concept, because some people are like, it's just being in the here and now. Like I'm reading a book by the Dalai Lama as well about like
Mhm.
happiness and like, you know, and a lot of people, you know, when people say you can't buy happiness, it's because you can buy all these things or like do whatever, but like it really has to do with your mindset. Um, I think being in the moment probably helps. For me, I personally get quite anxious when I don't get shit done. Like it's been a little bit hard, like since, because we're in lockdown again, but like since essentially for a year now, um not being able to go on my tour, not going on all these trips that I had planned, you know, and yeah, so for me it's like keeping busy makes me feel fulfilled, but that's me personally, and not everybody has ambitions like that. Like not everyone's a workaholic. But yeah, for me, I guess it's it's definitely a journey, you know. Because I also feel like half the time, um, just allowing myself to rest, like having a day where I like, and not making myself feel guilty for not being productive. I feel like that's another toxic thing of our generation, is that hustle culture of no days off. Like, and
Yeah,
I have been buying into that for a long time. And now I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. I can do something towards my next two targets every single day. But if I don't take a couple of hours a day for myself, I'm just going to burn out. Like it's not going to be good for the overall, you know,
for sure.
like result. So I think, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But I feel like this idea of chasing happiness also doesn't really work. You know what I mean? If you're chasing it, that means you misunderstood the concept.
Hmm.
You see what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I think that's
What do
really
you think?
cool. Yeah, for me, the way I see happiness, it's very strange. Like, I think I see it in two ways. So,
Mm-hmm.
the first way in which I see it is it's something. So, obviously, happiness is a concept that's innately just neutral. Like, it's not evil, it's not good. It just is. But I think
Mm-hmm.
um, happiness in itself, it's something that can be negatively or positively charged. And the way
Mm-hmm.
it works is that, like, you know, you decide what makes you happy. So like, for example, if I want this bottle of water and I decide it makes me happy, once I get it, I can either, you know, decide that it's going to make me happy for the rest of my life, or I can break down and like cry because now that I have it, it doesn't make me happy anymore. um
Mm-hmm.
so
The pursuit rather than like, as opposed to the act, like being fulfilled. Hold on, that made sense in my head. So on one hand, you could be upset because you really, what made you happy was the chase of
mhm,
said bottle of water. Whereas like if you get it, like an, or like do you actually get the happiness when you get what you want? That's very interesting actually, because you're right. I feel like a lot of the time people think something's going to make them happy, and when they reach that point they realize aiming for that was way more important than actually reaching it. So
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it really also depends on the person too, because some people
Mhm.
maintain their happiness once they reach that final destination. But some people have the opposite effect where, or experience where it's just like, oh my God, the grass was greener on the other side. I wish I hadn't done this,
Mm,
or something like that. And then the other way that I see happiness is, I feel like it's very largely affected by choice. So
mhm,
like I can just like we decide what makes us happy, and
mm,
like essentially I feel like happiness is something that we project onto something else. So
mm,
you know, when it's whether it's like an event or food or
yeah.
music, like we decide, you know, okay, if I get that dress or that pair of slacks or something,
Mhm,
that'll make me happy. But then once you get it, they become the slacks you've been wearing for like 2 years now, and it doesn't make you happy anymore. So
but I think that's interesting, because I feel like there's never a final destination. I don't think there is, and I feel like that's probably what brings you back to thinking, like what you said, it's by choice. Like that's what I meant when I said it's a mindset. So like just finding happiness in right here, right now, you know. And I think being grateful and practicing gratefulness is like super important in that, because like I can just be so happy that I can have this conversation with you right now. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things right now in my life that I can be happy about.
exactly.
And I think it's important as well, like to keep that balance of, you know, what do I have, and like maintain a level of gratitude for it, but then also, okay, what do I still want? And like, and I think you out from your happiness, you will get your energy to then pursue further happiness. But I don't think there's ever an end. Like there's no ceiling, you know. It's in interviews like with hugely successful people in our field. Like I think, I don't know if Jay-Z said it. I don't want to like misquote anyone, but you know, you set up Madison Square Garden 3 nights in a row. Okay, cool, boom, that was a world record. What's next? Like you're never gonna. You might revel in it for like a day or two, or maybe a week, but you're never gonna be like, okay, great, I can die now. Like you know, at least ideally you're not gonna feel that way.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, you're just gonna continue adding to the bucket list as you go, and I think that's a good thing. That's a great way of living life, you know. And you can also shift and amend your dreams. I think that's also important, like something we don't talk about enough. It's okay to change your mind, you know, like, because like you said, sometimes you get there and you're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. Oh, this is not really what I wanted. And I think that's important too, that you're allowed to change your mind.
Exactly, yeah, because you know we change. Like I'm not the same person I was when like even a year ago. Like, and I was talking about this to someone like earlier this week. I was like, honestly, I would not want to be friends with myself 5 years ago. Like I didn't like me 5 years ago. So
Really?
yeah, I really did not because like I was a terrible person, but like I just had a lot of bad qualities, and the way that I thought wasn't very conducive to like, you know, my mental health or to the people around me. And I really had to find like a place where I learned how to get over those really bad personality flaws or like life choices. And mind you, like I wasn't doing terrible things like drugs or whatever, but like
No,
um,
but
it was
I
more
mean,
like
even thing I was going to ask you, was it stuff like even negative self-talk? Because it just means you lower your frequency way below where you need to, like just not being nice to yourself is already toxic. You know what I mean? Was it
yeah,
stuff like that where you just like,
yeah,
was it more had to do with you rather than outside like
mhm,
influences and stuff?
for sure. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of my, even now, like I'm a very introspective person. Like a lot of my like dealings in my mind is very internal. So I before it was kind of bad. Like I would internalize everything to a point where I wouldn't let people in, or like I would like share a part of myself, but then another part of myself I'd keep like just in for me. So to me, it was like, oh, I'm just being guarded, but to other people, I'm just being closed off. So I really had to, and it also had to be me changing my friend group and a lot of people in my circle, because some people made me feel like I had to guard my emotions and guard parts of who I am because they didn't like it. And I was a huge people pleaser. Like I wanted to have friends because honestly, I didn't start making friends until because I had friends in high school, but maybe like three. And
Okay.
then when I got to college, like people actually liked me for who I am because like I was an adult, and like people gave less of a fuck when you're in college or in university because like, you know, you do you and I'll do me. That's kind of the atmosphere. So when I
Definitely.
found my people, I was like, oh my goodness. And some of the people that I found just were not very nice or weren't very, they were just toxic. And I just wanted to be accepted so badly that I did whatever I had to, either like I was a chameleon. Like if someone wanted me to be that way, I would just change color. So I really had to like step back and be like, oh my God, I'm becoming everything that I hate. So I've recently, like maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, I finally got into a place where I'm like comfortable being who I am, and you know, I'm more vocal about my struggles, and very clear on the people that I want in my life and what I don't do and don't want. It was literally just establishing boundaries, like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, with myself and with other people.
Yeah, I think thank you for sharing that. I really feel like that's something we should have heard more of, or like been taught more of growing up. And like maybe it's just because now obviously mental health is being more normalized and everything, and more talked about, that we didn't have the vocabulary perhaps in the past. But I think it's you're very right in saying, like, even picking and choosing who you have in your life, how much you allow them to be in your life. And yeah, you definitely don't want to be surrounded by people who make you feel like you have to shift, or, and like I've definitely done that at points when I then thought, like, then I felt bad for like saying yes to something I wanted to say no to or something, you know what I mean? And you just do stuff and you're like, why did I do that? Like, waste of my time, waste of everything, like energy, money, maybe, I don't know. It's just crazy that, like, but I guess that also comes with age, you know, you just kind of learn to, you grow up and you kind of learn to, you know, figure out what is important to you and why, and prioritize those things, because we don't have time to do everything, and that's cool. It's just important to prioritize what you want to do with your life, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me to one of my other questions is, do you feel like you've sacrificed anything to be happy? Because I feel like, or for your happiness, because I feel that there's two ways that like people experience
Mm,
happiness, and it's
mm,
either they they experience it like innately and don't really sacrifice anything, or
mm,
you do sacrifice something, whether it's good or bad. Like for example, like lately, my happiness like is my music and my friends. But if I want
mm,
to be with one, I'm sacrificing the other. So like if I'm working on my music or if I'm doing a show, I'm telling my friends I can't hang out, I can't do like this fun little side project, or I can't go
mm,
on that little short vacation or something.
mm,
In the grand scheme, they're very small sacrifices, but at the end of the day, like I'm missing out on really cool like things
mm,
for engaging in relationships with my friends and stuff like that.
mm,
So to a point, I feel like everyone gives up something to
mm.
be happy, whether it's, you know, something serious or if it's something like very minute. So how do you what feel about that?
I think that's also something that's great to talk about, because I feel like, again, it's something we need to normalize, this idea that you can have it all, but you can't have it all at all times, if that makes sense.
Mm,
So yeah, for sure. I mean, my family doesn't live here. I constantly sacrifice that. You know, even friends, like what you said, like a lot of my friends are all over the world. Like, I just haven't seen them, obviously now with COVID especially, but like in general, like, and like what you said as well. I mean, I always kind of look at it as like sacrificing a momentary, is that a word? A momentary like joy for the overall bigger picture, um, hoping that it will pay off, you know, by what you said, like investing everything into music, like going all in, like not being able to go on vacation to Jamaica with your friends because, you know, you're going to spend that 5 grand towards the production of the videos or whatever. Like, people don't know how much money we spend independently. Like,
yeah.
it's just, it's loads of things like that, you know, over the years for sure. But I think it's also important to pick and choose and like live as well. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I think it's important that you might not say yes to every trip with your friends, but like if you can squeeze one in, it's important to do it every now and again, because you don't want to look back on your 20s and say, like all I did was work. But at the same time, I do feel like my 20s are there for me to sacrifice as much time and energy as possible, because let's face it, right now I don't have to worry about anything other than myself. I don't have children. I don't have, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have children. I don't have to feed other people. Like, I'm lucky enough that I really, like, I know I don't have much responsibility. So I think that's when you do high risk stuff. That's when you go all in, and then hopefully like it's going to pay off at some point, and then you can take other risks in other departments. But I don't believe you can do everything at once, because I think sometimes it's just going to be overwhelming. Let's be honest. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're also independent, right? Like in your music, right? So I mean, I do about 4 or 5 jobs for myself. So it's just a lot, you know, to then on top of that do everything else. So
yeah. And I feel like it's good, and I'm sure you're the same way, where it's also good to have people in your life who understand what we have to do. Because you know, I'm sure you've had to like put something off because you had something to release, or you had to work on mixing something, or you know, writing a song, because you know, at the end of the day, that's our livelihood. Like, that's what we're trying to do. And it's good to have people in your life who get that, and like because I've had people who are like, oh, David's saying no because he thinks he's famous or something, and I'm like, that's not even it. Like, I'm trying to make a life for myself doing what I love, and I'm sorry I can't see that, but
no, but that's I mean, I hope that's one of the people you referred to earlier when you said you're no longer talking to them, because I really think that's someone who just really doesn't get it. Like, and that's cool. I mean, you can't be on everyone's wavelength, but I just really think it's important that you surround yourself, like you said, with people who get it. And whether that is a friend who get, like, I mean, a few weeks ago I literally got a text from a friend, and I had just given her advice on something the day before, and we spoke for hours, and then I get a text, and I was just like, yo, I can't deal with this today. But I didn't mean to be. And then after it occurred to me, I was like, was that rude? And then when I called her at some point, she was like, no, I get it. I know what you mean. So I think it's also knowing people who know how to read you. Like, because, you know, sometimes I can be quite abrupt, like, nope, hold the notifications. Like, I'm not available right now. Like, but yeah, you're right, for sure. It definitely, but I also feel like it's important to have people one step further, not just your friends and family who want to be understanding, but they might not be in the industry. Like, I recommend to anyone who is trying to make it in this business to forge some alliances with some people who you trust. Like, that's very important. I'm not talking superficial friendships. I'm talking people who you can genuinely be real with, and like actually express your fears to as well, and not just always have to pretend like, oh yeah, everything's going great, and like we did this and then we do that, like, you know, because that happens too, right? It's one of them industries. But just have like some real friends in the industry, so that when you pour your heart out, sometimes you don't have to explain what a master is, or you know what I mean, you don't have to explain all the little things. So I think that's super important as well, and it's kept me sane, just having some industry friends as well, but truly like true friends, real friends, you know.
sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that really covers like everything that I wanted to talk about, and that honestly, this was a really great conversation. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah, likewise. You really got me thinking as well about some stuff. I need to think about my definition of happiness a little bit more.
Over while you're making your TikTok like dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, Irini, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything that you want to say about like what's coming up for you, so people can like stay in touch?
I mean, I have my 3rd EP coming soon, but I don't have a date yet that I can share.
Well,
but
I'll
yeah.
be streaming.
Thank you. I'm streaming stuff too. I love it so much, and I shared it to some of my friends as well. Like, I have a friend who's a songwriter who he has like a similar vibe to you, so I want to connect you guys, because I feel like he also loves that like retro chic, like, I don't know. Yeah. But congrats on your single, by the way. I haven't said that yet, so
thank you
congrats
so much
on dropping it. It's really dope. So,
thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Bye.
have